everyone, and welcome back to a special edition of the Debrief that we are calling the Pre-Brief. Welcome to our preview of the World Rowing Senior Championships in Rycice in the Czech Republic, the first Senior World Championships since 2019. We'll be previewing all of the British crews over the next half hour or so. And to do so, I've got a fantastic lineup of Olympic bronze medalist Jacob Dawson, world rowing commentator Camilla Hadland-Horrocks, and Olympic silver medalist Polly Swan. However, before we kick off, during this time, British rowing will be observing the national period of mourning, but also ensuring that our athletes receive suitable coverage of their efforts in Rycice. British rowing will be publishing more information about this period of mourning in the next couple of days or so. However, more than 50 athletes have been selected to represent Great Britain in 18 boat classes at the 2022 World Rowing Championships. We've got lots to preview over the next half hour. We will be kicking off with the men's sculling, and we'll kick off, Camilla, with the men's single scull, represented by Graham Thomas, an interesting performance at the European Championships. But I think it's worth noting that the men's single scull field on the whole is fairly open. I think it's just about the largest entry that we've got at this year's World Championships.
Yeah, thanks, Fergus. It is always one of those events where they're racing every day, and if you don't make it through the heats, you've then got to do the repêchages. It's a really relentless event. So I think Graham's got a sort of long fight ahead of him. I think he's definitely capable of getting to the heights of the A final, given his performance in Munich. But for the medals, it's certainly going to be some really stiff competition. We saw amazing performances from the Dutch sculler at Munich, Melvin Tuelar, from the Greek sculler, Stefanos Duskos, and then, Graham right in the mix there amongst like Oli Zeidler, Christian Vasilev of Bulgaria. And then you've got to add in the likes of, the Aussies, the Kiwis, the USA. It's going to be a real tough event, as it always is.
And Jacob, I think it's worth noting from those European Championships, the eyes of Europe and the eyes of Germany was all on Oli Zeidler. He didn't come away with a medal on his home water in Munich. He'll be looking to bounce back and deliver a performance for a German team that is struggling at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot to be said for athletes that try to peak at the right time. As you say, you'd think perhaps Ollie would want to put performance in the European Championships on his home water, but you never know what's going on behind closed doors. You never know what kind of training cycle someone is in. I think Graham he's training a lot better this year, perhaps, as he has in the past, leading into World Championships. So I believe he's been given a bit of room to have a bit of variability in his training, which I think has helped him cope with a higher training load. So I'm definitely very excited to see what he can do on the biggest race of this year.
Yeah, I think as well with the single sculling, exactly what Jacob said, peaking at the right time is a huge thing. And I think with Graham, it's the first year of the Olympiad. It's the first time he's been able to race consistently in the single scull at a senior level, and he's just going to be getting better and better and better, and I think it's a perfect boat class for him to shine in. He's been in the squad for many years now, and I think this is going to give him this huge trajectory to move forward, whereas maybe some other single sculls around the world, for example, Ollie, I mean, he is young, but he's been around a while now, and so we've seen the best from him. Maybe with each race and with each regatta, I feel that Graham will be able to progress, and I'm personally really excited to see him get some.
100%. I don't want to jinx it for him. No, I think it'll be as it always is. It'll be very close between four boats.
Probably too hard to pick, isn't it?
Yeah.
Babel to Babel. Yeah. Oh, I am so this I have an invested interest in Dale. He's a great guy. Trained with him up in Edinburgh uni for a couple of years, and I'm just absolutely delighted to see him, making his senior international debuts this year. I think he's not raced the single. He's been in the double at the Hollenbecker, and to be honest, I just think I can't wait to see him race and put his mark on the world. And who knows what he's going to put out there, but he's one feisty Scottish sculler, so I'm so excited. I just wish him the best of luck. So who knows what will happen, but I think we've got big things to come from Dale, big time.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Very excited to see what Dale can do. His first senior world championships. And Camilla, just very quickly, we'll jump across to the men's quadruple scull. We had a really exciting race at the European Championships. We're bringing China into the equation now. It's finally got everyone coming together for this race. How do you think it's going to play out?
Do you know what? I think the men's quads this year, it's one of those events where there's no standout crew like there has been. The last Olympiad, we saw the Dutch as the kind of gold medal standard exemplary crew that everyone benchmarked themselves against at every event. And the field's wide open this year. And I'm so excited to see what this new look British combination can do, bringing the double, sliding them into the middle of that boat with Matt and George, who produced some fantastic results when they were in the double as a fairly young and up and coming combination. And ahead of Munich, where they had a really great semi-final despite crabbing, they came back, they managed to secure a place in the A final, they raced really well, and that was all off the back of about, I think, 2 weeks training. So they are only going to get better on the run up to this World Championships, and if they can produce an A final performance against the hot competition from Europe, as it always is in the men's quads, the likes of Poland, the likes of Italy, who are all going to be really strong, they're only going to get closer to those guys, and in fact I think I'd be really chuffed to see them on the podium.
Now, what we'll do now is we'll move across and we'll do the same, but we'll do it for the women's sculling as well. We'll start with the women's single scull. Great Britain represented by Hannah Scott, who's we're delighted to see her back in the team and racing at this year's World Championships. But it's worth noting, Polly, at this year's World Championships, we've got the Olympic champion Emma Twigg is back on the scene. And just like the men's single scull event, this one is absolutely stacked full of talent.
Yeah, I mean, I think it doesn't matter which event, as in, which World Championships, which European Championships, the single scull is always going to be the blue ribbon event. It's always going to be absolutely stacked. It doesn't matter, who's entered. There's always someone who can come in and peak at the right time and do a fantastic job. And that's how I feel about Hannah. I think she's shown some really good speed early in the year. And I know she's had some troubles with injuries, but she's an incredibly strong athlete, very strong-willed, and I cannot see her sort of lying down just because, somebody who is supposed to be fast will be fast. So yes, Emma Twigg will be incredible. She's an insane athlete. But I wouldn't discount Hannah. I think she's very talented. She's young, and I can't wait to see what she does. To be honest, I wouldn't want to put a prediction on it, but I know that she'll have some serious speed up her sleeve.
And Jacob, just looking at our lightweight women, we're sending a full squad, a double and a single. And what we've seen this season is that you can put anyone into this double scull, and it'll perform to an incredibly high standard. It's Emily Craig and Imogen Grant, the reigning European champions, who will be heading in the double. Maddie Arlett will be heading in the single scull. But I suppose, touchwood, as you said earlier, not jinxing anything, it's Great Britain's to lose this double scull.
Yeah, I mean, they're individually, they're both very impressive athletes. Emily Craig has a wealth of experience in terms of international lightweight racing. And Imogen's just an absolute gun. She gives most of the heavyweights a run for their money half the time on the ergo. And they definitely have beef that they want to settle and put to bed post-Tokyo. I'm sure, that they're quite openly honest about how disappointing that was for them to, just miss out on the medals by not very much at all. And so, yeah, they'll definitely be wanting to right what they feel were wrongs.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, this lightweight women's double field, they've got New Zealand, the reigning world champions, they've got Olympic medalists in the form of France and Italy. So it's certainly one we're all going to be keeping our eyes very closely on. But Camilla, keeping with doubles, we'll move to the women's open weight double. It's another bolt class that features the reigning Olympic champions. And I think the standout crew, we saw back in Munich a few weeks ago, it's Romania who are the standout crew in this. Kyra Edwards and Saskia Budget came away with a 4th place, and they'll be looking to go 1 or 2 better or 3 better at the World Championships this week. But Romania really are an absolutely dominant crew.
Yeah, Romania are one of those crews that, like I was talking about with the men's quads, they are that benchmark crew, right? They are the gold medal standard, and they just, every event that they've raced in, whether it be a World Cup, a European Championships, even the Olympic Games in Tokyo, they were lengths ahead of the field. Bodnar and Radis are just an exemplary crew, and I think it would be an upset for anyone to overhaul them. So I think coming away with a 4th place, Edwards and Budget at Munich, the most recent event that we've had to put on paper, and their first event as a double scull, right? A really solid performance. Obviously, the World Championships, we open that out to the rest of the world, and there certainly will be vested interest in a lot of the kind of small boats from countries outside of Europe. I think the smaller the boat category, often the more populated it is by some of those smaller countries and countries from around the world. So they will face really hot competition. But yeah, certainly, behind the Romanians, there's no real kind of form book. There's no other crews that you would absolutely pit for the medals. So it's all up for them to go and take it with both hands.
Absolutely. Really looking forward to that one. And finally, wrapping up the women's sculling, Jacob, we've got the women's quad. We've got Great Britain coming in again, European champions. It's very nice to be able to see that so many times during this recording. However, again, we've got the crew that are entered by China. They're coming in as the Olympic champions from last year. And I think, I could be sort of shouted at for saying this, but I think it was a surprise seeing this Great Britain crew come away and win the European Championships. A brilliant surprise, but one nonetheless. How do you think they're going to fare against China over the course of the next week?
I think that they had a really good run into Europeans. It's quite a new crew in terms of personnel and younger guys within the squad. I believe they've been struggling a little bit with illness and injury in the earlier parts of the season. So perhaps that's why they maybe didn't perform as well earlier in the year as to how Europeans suggested they should have been performing all year long. And so I think that, with a good block of training in a training camp, they're only going to see improvement from that, and they're only going to get quicker. Another crew that I'm very excited to see hopefully do very well.
Yeah, very excited to see them step up and race the legs of the Chinese, as we've mentioned. We'll switch it around a little bit. We will look at our para crews who will be racing. We've got 5 crews racing. We've got our as my notes say, the literally unstoppable PR3 mixed Coxed 4. We'll start with them. One change from the crew that won European gold. Morgan Bain and Williams steps in for Erin Kennedy as she undergoes cancer treatment. I know everyone watching this will be thinking of Erin and sending her all the very best over the coming weeks. I know she'll be glued to her TV screen watching her crew racing over the next week. I think, Polly, you run out of superlatives when talking about this for. They're world class, they're unstoppable, they're record holders, everything, and it's what we're going to do next.
Yeah, I think these guys, they've been led by Erin this whole last Olympiad and into this year. And I know that now having Morgan coming into the crew, they will continue that ferocity of training. And this crew that, so I've trained with them in the past, I've done side-by-side racing, and they just take no prisoners. It's amazing. You'd think that someone who's winning by, 10, 20 seconds would kind of take their foot off the gas. But what I love about these guys is they want more and more and more. And yeah, I think we'll just see bigger and bigger margins. And I think they just want to completely put their stamp on the world of para rowing. And I mean, they already have, but that kind of unbroken streak, they just want to keep extending it on and seeing where the boundaries are. And it's all their own records that they're breaking, but that they just still want it. They're so hungry, it's amazing. So yeah, I think they're a real example of athleticism, and yeah, I can't wait to see what sort of speed they've got. And I think what's really great is they're spurred on by having Erin at home, and they're doing it for her. And what more could you wish for? So yeah, I think that'd be fantastic.
Absolutely. And what's going to be really interesting to see is them also doubling up. They're in the PR3 women's pair and the PR3 men's pair as well. So really interesting to see how they perform, not just in the four, but also those pairs as well, taking on an entirely new boat class for them. Jacob, just looking at one of the other para entries that we've got, Ben Pritchard, the Welsh Dragon in the PR1 men's single scull, bronze medal at the Europeans, 5th place at the Olympics last year. And looking again for him to go up against the rest of the world, but in this boat class in particular, it's quite interesting that so much of the talent actually lies in Europe. So we will have had some of his toughest tests of the season already.
Absolutely. I know Ben quite well. He's a great guy, just always positive. Definitely, you miss him when he's not around the training centre. I know he's been working really, really hard with coaches in biomechanics staff to improve the setup in his boat, see if there's if he can look more into the way he's rowing and the way he's racing. Hopefully he's been able to gain some more free speed over the years, because he trains like a savage, and he's got the world record on the erg for the 2K. So there's no reason why he can't excel and exceed his own expectations of himself.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever known anyone to turn every single stone over to try and get a tiny bit of speed. It's amazing. So, and I know he's pretty hard on himself. He gets really frustrated if he gets a bronze medal. And you're like, Ben, you're amazing, So yeah, I just think he's going to go out and try and take hold of the racing in that first 500 meters, and that he's going to put himself in the bin. So yeah, he's definitely one to watch. I know there's some, the Ukrainian is absolutely out of this world, but what's nice to see is they have this real camaraderie as well in the boat class. I think that's true of a lot of single scullers. Although it's all, when the gun goes, they're tearing each other apart, but actually off land, it's this real camaraderie, and I loved it. It's lovely to see. It's really cool. So.
And Camilla, just finally, very quickly, we've got one other para crew racing. It's our PR3 mixed double sculls of Annie Caddick and Dan Powell. Obviously, Great Britain, the reigning Olympic champions in this boat class, but a different lineup. And then we've got this new combination that's come together this year. How are they going to stack up against the rest of the world?
Well, do you know what excites me is it's a new Paralympic boat class, this mixed double scull, the sort of PR3 events expanding from just being able to do sweep all rowing in the 4 to now being able to take part in sculling in the double. And I know that this crew did particularly well at Gavorrate, which is the Paralympic, it's the sort of para category event that happens in amongst the World Cup season. So I'm excited to see how this event starts to populate, where they measure up against other countries that are prioritizing this as an event on the run up to the next Paralympic Games into 2024. So yeah, nice to see new faces in the team, nice to see a new event, and that para rowing's expanding, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger.
Yeah, really looking forward to seeing how the whole of that squad is going to perform over the next week. Jacob, we'll switch over to the women's sweep side of things. We'll start with the pair of Esme Booth and Emily Ford. They've had a fantastic season so far, culminating in that silver medal at the European Championships. How are they going to be looking to step on and go one better this time around?
I mean, like M4, she's an absolute savage. She's one of the toughest people I know. It's in the 40 genes, I think. And Esme Booth being like, you know, a young and exciting sort of talent coming into the squad. I know that they both get on very, very well in the pair. And as the old saying goes, a happy boat is a fast boat. So I think, you know, the fact that they'll be enjoying their training together, they'll be enjoying the miles, enjoying the time they're spending together. It will just make their training quality so much better. And I think that will naturally allow a progression in terms of their speed.
Yeah, really looking forward to seeing how they get on. And obviously, we've got one other boat that's racing. I suppose, Polly, just before we touch on the women's 4, at the European Championships, the women's squad doubled up and raced the 8. We've got the Paris squad, they're doubling up in their 4 and their pairs. Why do you think the women's sweep squad has opted just to focus on the pair and the 4 and not going for it in the 8? Obviously, we've seen at the Olympics last year that it is possible to do it. Why do you think Great Britain have gone just for the pair and the 4 this time around?
I mean, it's a good question. I think that they have this whole year had a group of probably 10 exceptional women, and they knew that they could create an outstanding 4, an outstanding pair, and together create an outstanding 8, and that's why they doubled up and have chosen to do that challenge. It's not easy to double up a whole boat class. I've done it myself, and it takes a lot more out of you than you realise. And I think to keep the standard and keep the momentum that these girls have built in this last year with Andy, the new coach, and the new training program, I think they've chosen to go with the boats that will be fighting for the medals. I think the 8 would probably be more of a development project at the moment, and maybe they've chosen to keep developing those girls back at home, back at the home clubs, so that rather than having international racing and maybe not doing as well as the rest of the squad and feeling that that's a failure, which is absolutely not correct, they can use it as a momentum and see that their colleagues and their team members are going and winning these incredible medals, and that's where they want to be, rather than going themselves and maybe feeling disheartened, even though actually where they are in the cycle is appropriate, and that there's no reason why in 2 years' time at the Olympic Games they can't as well be on top of a podium. And I'm a strong believer that building momentum and building that kind of belief in a team is essential. And if you start to degrade that, actually it can be quite poisonous. So I think it's been a really good call. And yes, okay, it means that you don't get the shirt on your back and you don't maybe get the senior experience, but maybe it means that you get to build yourself as an athlete, you get to develop as a team outside of the World Championships, and then you're really, really hungry for when that opportunity comes next year. So I think it's a good thing to have done.
Yeah, really looking forward to seeing how Project Paris continues to unfold. Obviously, we're just 2 years out from Paris. It's very nice to be able to say that it's only 2 years to go until the next Olympic Games. Camilla, we'll look at the women's 4, but I suppose you might as well just look at the men's 4 just alongside it. Both crews coming in as reigning European champions, and it's phenomenal to be able to say that in the same breath that, well, our men's 4 is fantastic, but so is our women's 4. Both crews are exceptional, and once again, on the men's and the women's side, are going to be saying, well, it looks like it's going to be a battle between Australia and Great Britain, a rivalry that's been going on for decades now.
Yeah, and isn't it amazing that like that age-old history in the men's side of things has kind of replicated on the women's side of things after just a few years of it being an Olympic event, that it's done that kind of, it's come through that journey of being carved out into being, certainly for Great Britain, that event was such prestige and that kind of reputation that we have in the boat class, and being the same on the women's side. And it seems that Australia have trodden a very similar path, right? I think for the women's 4, certainly this is like the most dominant that they have been since kind of its inception. And I know, you know, Polly, you've frequented that women's four at the last World Championships back in 2019, and just the kind of style in which they won the European Championships was gobsmacking, right? You know, they went out to clear water, controlled the field, everyone else sprinted to come back around them, but yeah, they had a real class and a real style about them, which the Aussies had managed to master all through that kind of 2019 World Championships through to the Tokyo Games. So it's going to be great to see them pitted against one another on a World Championship stage, and both, it seems, having that similar style of trying to get out and control the field. From the men's side, you know, we've seen, I guess, a bit of chop and change, right? With the honours exchanging hands between Henley Royal, between World Cup 3, between the Europeans. Obviously, the Aussies weren't there in Munich, but you know, the sort of style which the men's four won in Munich, again, it was long, it was low, like compared to the rest of that more kind of high rating, very punchy field that you see from a lot of the European crews. Like, it was just very relaxed, and certainly I think that will be a very different style to the Australians, who historically in these last few years have pitted for that, you know, chunk it down at rate 40 down the course. And when I say chunk, you know, really go punching holes in the water up at the high ratings. So yeah, it's going to be a real contrast of styles, I think, on both sides. And you know, again and again, Great Britain versus Australia, I think, for the gold medal on both sides.
I'm going to go ahead and predict that we've got a GB win for both of them. These two events, like the ones that I can't wait to watch, because I know it's going to be epic. And yeah, I'm actually putting my hat on it. GB to win both, because they're both of them have had such an epic season. And yeah, I think if you're going to watch two events, make it the fours. I think it'll be good.
And I think as well on the in terms of the athletes as well, I'm just really impressed by the amount of buy-in and belief I've seen from both crews in what they're doing, despite the fact they are polar opposite programs and polar opposite ways of going about things. They both have an absolute belief in what they're doing, and that's only going to help them win even more.
2 votes left. We've got the men's pair, which will be represented by Tom George and Ollie Wynne Griffith. And I think, just very quickly on this one, I think looking at Tom and Ollie after the European Championships, I think everyone's got to be really careful of what these guys are capable of, particularly in their heat. I think they're going to come out with an absolute vengeance, and I actually feel for anyone who's racing them in their heat after they came up in silver medal position at the European Championships. I think they were very much favourites for gold, and I think they felt that they were favourites for gold, and I think they'll be looking to absolutely go one better this time around.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with that statement anymore. I think what separates Tom and Ollie from the GB pair that we've had in the past is that they're really hungry for it. They wanted to do the pair. They're arguably our top guys in the squad. They're going very fast. They have shown incredible speed on the water behind closed doors. Yeah, I think this is possibly the race I'm most excited to see out of all the races. Obviously, they're my friends as well. I want to see them do very well. But just in terms of the love of the sport as well, like it's so exciting to see a GB pair finally doing really well again and consistently in the medals and within reaching distance of taking the whole lot. I think, you know, they're under no illusions that it's going to be tough. The pairs event is a savage event, much like the men's single. Howsoever, yeah, I think they have a really good shot at establishing themselves within the world.
I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the winning the silver medal almost is the best thing probably that could happen at that point in time. They've had a really good chunk of being able to train after that, and they've seen where there maybe is a few things that they can improve on. And the pair is it's kind of made in heaven or it's not, and I think they've jumped into it and it's been made in heaven, but you've still got to work at those last little bits, and that's what is so great about this pairing, is that they know each other inside out and they're going to be willing to drive that forward and create something really exceptional. So actually, I think, yes, they were really disappointed with their silver medal, but maybe that's what's made them. And yeah, I agree. It'll be really exciting.
I know for a fact that along with the work of Rob Baker, they've been leaving absolutely no stone unturned. They've been looking at everything from the rig to the boat to the training they're doing to just sort of their mentality around sessions and how they approach sessions. So they're going to squeeze every last ounce out of it.
So we've just got the men's 8 left, and Polly will give you the final word on this. They're coming in as European champions, certainly the ones to beat. But I think actually, having watched that race, the one crew that's going to beat them, I think, could potentially be the Netherlands, who came from a boat-stopping crab all the way to the rest of the field to eventually win a silver medal, and it's a crew that certainly can't be written off.
Oh, do you know, these guys have come together and they've just put something exceptional out on the water every time they've raced. You've got some incredibly strong athletes in there. You've got some very young athletes in there. And I don't think anyone ever thought that they would come out and deliver the kind of exceptional racing that they have. In men's 8 racing, it is always insane. It's always savage racing, and especially in the Europeans, I feel that they created a standard by completely stepping out of that mold. And usually it's neck and neck and barrel to barrel, and you're never going to be able to guess it on the day. And almost much like the 2016 8 did at the Olympic Games, just went boom. That's the standard. So I imagine that's what they're going to come out and do and try and replicate in the World Championships. Now, I'm sure that the Dutch will give it all they've got, and I'm sure they will, you can't discount any other country. That, the Germans historically in this event have been fantastic. It just takes, I don't know, someone else to have had a really good training season and come out and deliver something really exceptional. But these guys have set the standard high, and yeah, I can't see anyone else challenging them in the world. And what an amazing place to be at this time in the Olympiad, and with such young guys. Like I said, maybe because I'm old now and dishevelled and up in Scotland with my head in a ditch somewhere, that I didn't realise that this is what's going to happen. So for me, that was an exceptional result. I think they'll take the world by storm. If anyone can win by a significant margin, then I think it'll be them. I
think as well, from the you could just tell when the crew was selected, just seeing them row around Caversham for the first session, immediately you could tell it was a very special crew. And there's something to be said for a crew that just clicks, and they certainly have. And yeah, I don't think they'll perhaps enjoy as much of a margin as they have had throughout the year, because everybody brings their absolute A game for the World Championship, but I don't think they're going to have any issues taking home the gold.
So there we have it, 18 crews, 50 athletes, and an army of coaches and support staff heading out to Rycice in the Czech Republic for the World Rowing Championships, starting on Monday, running until the 25th of September. We will be bringing you all of the action after the event has happened. We will be bringing you the debrief after the World Rowing Championships, and we'll be looking forward to following the progress of all of the crews over the next week out in the Czech Republic. So very best of luck to all of the Great Britain crews that are racing, and we will see you for the debrief in a week's time.